Why does Vampyre suck? Because he's gay, obviously. I know, I'm so funny. Alright, so welcome to part 3 of this multi-part video series where I've been talking and editing for too many hours that I'm officially tired of it. Just kidding, I love to talk constantly. Make sure you watch the My Biggest Regret video first, and then the Cheating Pandemic second, or some of this is not going to make much sense. A bit of background. From February 2025 to March 2025, I was supposed to be studying in Asia, and during this time period, I was in Asia during this time. But my university screwed me over, and I won't go into too much details about that, but they basically misinformed me of some critical information, making me have to withdraw from my study and leave Asia. On the 21st of March 2025, I flew from Asia to North America to spend a month with a friend. Then I jumped to another country in North America as I figured out the next game plan. Eventually, I would jump back to another country at the end of June 2025 and start working 2 jobs until September 2025. I was getting about 3 hours or less of sleep on average around this time when I was doing these 2 jobs. This resulted in me being extremely sleep deprived while trying to run the server and do a multitude of other things like handle competitive drama. By September 2025, I moved to another city and started working a new job, which I found within a week of moving to the city that I moved to, which was much better for my mental health and physical health. I say this not to get sympathy, but to once again understand that I'm dealing with a ton of stuff on top of the endless amount of server stuff that's going on at this time. Where do we begin? This featured video brought to you by Vampyre is going to cover 2 former staff members, Antonio and Alan Seba, and the number of issues I had with them. Both are Latin American competitive players and both have had their fair share of issues. I brought both of them onto balance because I wanted their expertise in helping to shape the future of the competitive community for Uncharted. And at first, with both of them, everything was okay. Now, to preface this video, I have a lot of respect for both of these players despite the issues I've had with them. You can tell both of these players have a huge amount of passion for the games and the community as a whole, especially the competitive scene. They both really go above and beyond to do what they can for the community. I actually debated on even doing this video or publishing it. The reason I ended up doing so was so you can see some of the stuff I have had to deal with. The hope is that you guys get an idea of what it's been like dealing with internal staff drama related to the competitive scene, or even just drama related to staff. Despite the differences between them and I, or our past arguments, I actually think they're some of the most helpful players when it comes to the competitive scene for all they contribute and for notifying staff of cheating related issues or other issues within the community. Out of all the videos done so far about players or individuals in this community, these 2 have their issues, but don't we all? Despite this and their issues, I do commend them for how much they help out the community and try to keep it clear of hackers, and we're really fortunate to have them in the community. With this video, do try to understand the frustrations from their point of view about how the toxicity in the community is rampant, or how the moderation has been handled and weaponized by competitive players to attack each other or get each other banned. Try putting yourself in their shoes to try to understand why they got so upset with how things have gone, or how volatile this community can be, or how moderation has been weaponized. Our story begins in March. You can see me asking Antonio not to outline if players are lagging or hinting at it in public chats, because some people can get very defensive about it, and we don't know the geographic or financial circumstances that might lead to somebody lagging. So we don't want to outline these things and attack players or make them upset. You can see him saying in the PS3 beta chat, everyone lags sometimes, but some people more than others. You see him say he agrees, but then he starts saying that the player in question is using the victim card every time and tries to use staff to make people ban. Antonio tries to say that he won't play with this person again and that will solve the issue. I point out that immediately Antonio started trolling him. That's what he told Ezra. If you're instigating and trolling somebody, that can lead to them be upset. So why is staff trolling people in a way that's going to get them upset and instigate them? You can see him say that here. I point out that Antonio starts provoking him and making fun of his connections from those messages, that they started the conflict from what it looked like. You can see Antonio starts fighting with people, and this will become a common trend throughout his time as a reloaded staff member. I mentioned this is the second time in 2 weeks that a player has reported his behavior, and the last time he was blaming the actions on a situation with his girlfriend. I want to know that's fair. I get that. You had a stressful day or something happened. Okay, no harm, no foul. Different things happen in people's lives, and that can upset them and put them on edge or make them stressed and cause them to act out. It happens. It's life. Except he kept trying to defend his actions over and over, even saying his solution was not to play with someone, which should be a last resort as a staff member. And you can see me trying to reason and talk to him. It's not like I just came out of nowhere and started being being mean to him or not listening to him. I tried to even tell him, if you're having people who are making you upset, I'd rather you come into a private chat and rant or argue or tell somebody on staff in DMs. That way it's not public and you can at least contain the situation. You don't have to be happy with everyone. People get mad about certain things within this community, and I'd rather staff utilize these private chats to vent their frustrations than taking it out on members of the community in public. Also, I found this message. You'll see that Antonio states, if the person insults someone again, I want him to be warned too. And I even tell Antonio, I'm aware you curb a lot of the toxicity in the Latin community, but if you have someone instigating, whether it's you or Alan, and they get mad and respond defensively and call you an asshole, I'm not going to warn him because you're starting the fight and you're starting acting like an asshole. I also want to mention in this chat that I found, you can see him mention the blood oath and say that it's been really successful. And I point out that we refuse to re-whitelist the ones who cheated in every game. Antonio even points out it did part of the job right to not let many cheaters back in. So there were some successes with the blood oath. It was not just a horrible idea. Okay, problem done and dealt with. Nice. There shouldn't be any more issues going forward. Oh, God damn it. You see me having to ask Antonio, did you spam a swear word or a offensive word in Latin on voice or mic? Antonio asks, are you talking about the video of the final? I suppose he's referencing a final match in the stream or final match in some kind of competitive tournament. I'm not exactly sure or able to recall what he was referencing here. He then chimes in, should calling me bald be punished? As in, somebody going and saying he's bald in public, should that be a punishable thing? You can see in the public chat for Uncharted 3 that somebody says kicking me and puts a bald emoji, which upsets Antonio. I point out that I wouldn't let somebody posting a bald emoji get to me, that he should ask him to please not post it or refer to him as bald, but that there's likely more pressing things to take on with moderation personally, but if it's something that makes him upset, he should bring it up to the person and ask them to politely stop before bringing it up to us. You should always ask somebody to stop doing something before you get moderation involved. Maybe they don't know you're upsetting them. Maybe they are thinking they're teasing or being playful or doing it to get a rise out of you, but if you don't communicate for them to stop, how will they know to stop, or how can we step in and ask them to stop if you haven't already? I can kind of get why you'd be upset with somebody pointing out he's balding or going bald, yet can't you just ignore him? He says, I've had many problems with that. Okay, so don't show people it gets to you. If you make it seem like you care so much, people are gonna jump on that. But if you show you don't care and act like you don't, people won't use it to upset you because they won't get any reaction. And being bald isn't a bad thing. There are a lot of attractive bald men who do a fantastic job of looking good and embrace it. The one I think of it is Professor X from the X-Men, or even you can think of any other actor who looks really good with a bald or shaved head. I wouldn't let somebody upset you or even think of that as a negative. There's 1,000 women out there, 1,000+ women, I guarantee, and even men who find being bald super attractive. It's all about confidence. I even say, if you have problems with people using that against you or making you upset or trying to get a rise out of you for that, feel free to ping all moderators or DM one of the admins personally and we'll handle it. That should be the first step in any conflict resolution after asking the person to stop. I tell him, I'm not banning you, I'm not even taking you off staff, I'm just asking you what happened, getting your side of the story. He maybe even misheard you, which is fair. Audio can be hard to hear. I know, Vampyre actually talking to his staff and not blowing up at people or being some crazy tyrannical dictator. Who's this person that we're talking about? Where's the evil vampire we all know and love, or hate, I guess, in most capacities? I tell him, make sure the next time that this happens to ping all moderators staff, that they can talk first in this case or anyone else, and tell them to leave the individual alone based on what type of harassment they're doing or what are they doing that's upsetting them. There's multiple approaches and solutions we can take because moderators tend to be a lot better at handling these type of situations than myself, so I will always try to defer to better moderators who have more of a handle on these things. You can see him then call out to all moderators that if this guy calls me bald again, it won't be the first time that he's done it, and I won't let him talk to me like that again. I point out it could have probably been worded a bit differently and better, as that was kind of aggressive and maybe a bit rude, but in contrast and in Antonio's defense, you really shouldn't be making fun of somebody's appearance that they can't control or going out of your way to harass somebody and rile them up with what you know makes them upset. I even point out I'm aware this player liked to create controversy and drama and acts a certain way, but we as staff should probably avoid talking about people's connections specifically. He even points out how some of the other players in private calls make fun of other players' connections, and I point out that that's a private call. that you would hopefully not have leaked or have people share, and that's a different situation between friends. I can't control everything that goes on in private chats, but if they're actually private, it should be a very few of you, very close, and not 100 plus people sharing things. Okay, another crisis dealt with and averted. No one removed. It's a learning experience going forward for everyone. Yada yada. Things seemingly proceed as normal, and nothing seems to be really going wrong. Finally, great. This is where Antonio starts being provocative with Raptor when he was in the Discord, and I'll show you the chats later. I don't even get mad at Antonio for this. Raptor is a smug asshole. The way he talks to people is not okay, and he tries to rile people up and make sly remarks or tries to provoke people. You can read this conversation and see where I'm even saying Raptor was a part of the balance team and he threw his teammates to the wolves, saying he didn't approve of the patch and giving contradictory statements when he had input on the patch at that time. He's just a hypocrite and he's two-faced. So I don't even blame Antonio for responding how he did here, but as staff, we should try to avoid that. You can see him, Raptor, saying, I support two of those when he lists the balance team. I believe it was Sky and Cooper basically saying he doesn't approve of anyone else on balance. Antonio says, keep crying, I like it. Yes, we are friends. That's why we are always aware of your mouth in your streams. He's talking about Raptor going on stream and talking shit about the project, talking shit about me, or talking shit about other individuals. This is how Raptor acts. This is why Raptor is so problematic in this community. He's toxic. He doesn't care who he upsets. He goes off on people and never lets things go. If he was actually an adult and matured from his past experiences and stopped being toxic, so much of the community would be better off for it, and we'd have such a nicer time. But instead, he hyper-focuses on politics, takes any attempt that he can or opportunity to try to screw over people who he feels has wronged him, and is just a very negative person to be around. I even tell Antonio, you should delete those comments, you're just riling up for nothing. Just troll if you want to, and when I say troll, I'm not saying aggressively, provocatively troll, but just don't take it seriously, have a bit of fun with it, show it doesn't bother you. I even say I don't take what he says seriously, I'll just say the stupidest shit when he responds. If you're gonna hate me at every moment and take the opportunity to shit talk me, I'm just gonna give you stupid troll answers. Even Antonio brings up, ask what the original players like Pumas, Barry Haynes, or many others thought about Raptor, and his friend Zach Magic, they'll surprise you. I'm assuming Raptor has a reputation in this community for being provocative and being an asshole, and based on the last video we saw, that isn't surprising. So it doesn't surprise me with Antonio saying this is really how Raptor operates in this community. He's not liked by a lot of people. I even tell Antonio, you can just give non-serious answers and have fun with it. That's how I replied and responded to him. I show him that and say, this is me kind of taking light of the situation and having fun with it. You can see Raptor saying something and I respond, you probably wish for me wrapped in wrapping paper for Christmas. I've heard your love tangents for me, aka when he's on Voice, YouTube, talking shit about me and saying I'm the most awful person. He says, I definitely want you wrapped in something, and I just send a dancing dog emoji from Bluey. I even have Danger Extreme say 3 things that would make him happy would be to have Gustavo unbalanced. I say, good thing we want to make sure you're unhappy forever. I even get Gustavo saying, please give me a chance to be on Balakar. Okay, of course you can be on Balakar. I don't know what Balakar is, but you can be on whatever that is. Balakar, have fun. I know. Vampyre, learning from his mistakes, trying to grow as a person. Who would have thought? I do try to listen and improve myself when it comes to this community, though. You can see me here say there's no point in showing that you get upset or even battling with them and arguing with them. Once they realize they have your attention or you're upset, they'll just keep pushing and provoking you. Remember, you're dealing with Uncharted players. A lot of the community has IQ lower than average. Not everyone, but there are some people you look at and you go, what is wrong with you? What are you talking about? I even say here, I don't argue with people who get banned for cheating and hacking. It's always, I didn't cheat, prove it. Oh, but what I did is not that bad. Every time somebody claims they didn't hack, they go into this tangent about how there's biases or they weren't actually hacking. It's never them admitting they hacked until you look at the evidence and show it to them. I don't even show the evidence anymore because it's such a waste of our time as staff to try to deal with somebody appealing, because no matter what you say, they'll argue till they're blue in the face that they never cheated. You get us now talking about Antonio causing another problem not even seconds later. In this screenshot, you can see that one of my staff members is getting upset with how much the cheating is getting out of of hand. We have a lot of people who are suspicious and we can't prove stuff because they're being smart about trying to hide it. They're sick of playing against cheaters all day and they're just done playing with these people. I tell them we've been trying to take more action against people, and if someone appears to be cheating, make a ticket or let us know and we'll try to go about finding a resolution if they're cheating and trying to ban them and get rid of them. This is just to highlight just how problematic the community was in the early alpha. There was a ton of cheaters. This is why the Blood Oath ended up happening. It got to a point where everyone was getting frustrated that you got banned, you could just hop on an alt and start playing again and cheat. You can see me asking Antonio to not just tell somebody in public, thanks for ruining another match. This person, ZKT, is one of the horrible Americans who's a scumbag who was cheating in the last video. All these Americans, when somebody asks me to unban them, I have to laugh at your face to even suggest it. They continuously drove people mad, cheated and hacked, and ruined games for people. I point out, if you ask them to stop and they don't stop, then we can have a moderator or even a cheat team or some kind of individual on staff make the call to do a behavior ban. But we need to take the diplomatic approach first, even if you have to ask more than once. I would hope not, but sometimes you just have to ask more than once. You say, hey, this person is ruining games. No, we haven't asked them to stop. Rather, we're fighting them in public. What do you expect me and my admin team or staff team to do if you haven't asked them to stop? If it's been brought up to them by staff more than once, please stop, please stop, please stop, and they keep doing it, then you don't really need to ask them. We've already asked. But as staff, we should try to first with the person because maybe they don't know what they're doing is wrong. Maybe they think they're just having fun or they're not ruining the game, but we should always try to communicate with the person first. I even say, yeah, they should be joining and ruining matches, but if you start instigating or fighting and retaliating in public, it's a little harder to do anything about it. If you ask them to stop or to leave and they don't and they keep dancing or shooting people, then yeah, we can talk about taking action, especially if it's a theme or recurring issue. But I need to know, and other staff needs to know, that they've been asked to stop first. Also, this one is for everyone who had to deal with Ant prior to Thug's tournament. We were aware and working on gathering evidence. You can see Antonio respond, did you face the Americans? This is what we call them, the Americans. He says, whoever this person is, yep, and I'm refusing to play against a wall hacker. Who's on these teams? Sakir, which we know is organic and is the leader, aka Seastroy. Epis, which I believe was another Seastroy. Alt Activist, Ehom, Stripes. You have Stripes on this team. He's part of Ant. He's associated with them. He's part of the roster. Wallace Kingdom, which I'm pretty sure was just another alt, and Usaida. It's not a surprise when somebody goes to defend Stripes that I point out he knew about Ant. He was part of their team. Him trying to deny it, he's been associated with these people for years. If you keep believing him because he likes to lie and he thinks he can get out of any type of situation by smoothly talking his way out of it or acting nice, then you really need to reassess and look at all the evidence in all these videos to come to a conclusion of why is Stripes on a team with these people. And they knew Sakir was Vemdy from the start. We'll go into that in the next video. So can you guess what's coming up next? You have Antonio get upset about Siren and Semling, two players we talked about in the last video who were 100% cheating and getting upset about this horrible American team cheating. This is why I want to say that I really do appreciate Antonio. He is an honest guy. He really, really hates when the competitive scene is ruined by these cheaters. He goes above and beyond to try to clear them out of this. People take that for granted. This is why when I started this video, I said, even with these issues with Antonio, he is one of the best competitive players for trying to keep things nice and clean. And he may not go about things the right way all the time, but I do appreciate his willingness to step up and notify us or the competitive players about cheaters or hackers and being able to do everything he does for the community. You can see me asking Antonio once again not to say something as he did in the public chat. You can see him saying a player was AFK. We don't have to be forced to play with them if they're not going to be in the match, and that's fair in my opinion. I want to point out that maybe they were using the washroom or something happened that I don't want to say I don't understand the frustrations, because we've all been there where somebody's been AFK and it's not really that fun to play with them, and hopefully they don't do it all the time. But if you're AFK at the start of a match and you get kicked or whatever happens, it shouldn't be then, I never want to play with them again. And I can't remember the rationale for it. Maybe they were doing AFK a lot of the time, but this isn't something we should have said in public. He then starts fighting with Destin, who says, chill man, it's just a game. He gets mad and starts responding aggressively and says, don't bother admins with kid games and all. I say, hey, maybe we can communicate about the person being AFK and pinging the person here asking for them if they are here rather than just getting upset. I tell Antonio, you had this conversation multiple times. Maybe next time don't intervene as it looks very bad. And I have people DMing me going, why is Antonio attacking me? We're supposed to be there for when people have problems and help them. I get a lot of stupid DMs. I don't just rudely go, screw off. These days, I don't get to respond to all the DMs because I'm very, very busy and I have a lot that's going on. So it's easier if you make a ticket. Antonio says, we can't let people go to your DMs crying every time. I agree with him here. I say, I get that, but was it necessary to respond to him how you did? The situation could have been handled better. I tell him it's not a good look for staff to do that. It isn't very good for the community if you see staff fighting with people in public or being very rude or mean. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's happened with myself, especially over the last 2 years. But we should try, at the end of the day, to try to be kind. We should try to have a higher standard. I'm not saying don't joke around. I troll a bit here and there, but it's usually harmless trolling, and I try to avoid aggressive responses like that. Because once again, it's all about optics. It's how the community perceives us. He says he's sorry and he'll always defend the good players. And I point out here, Raptor saying he should be back. I don't engage publicly with him. There's no point. And ask him to refrain from such incidents in the future. Antonio even says he'll always defend the good players. The actual competitive players aren't cheating or hacking, aren't problematic in the community. And once again, I commend him for that. He really does have a good heart. It's just sometimes he gets baited or riled up and he gets into kind of this toxic mode. I even point out that another person on the team said it better than me, and I'll repeat what he said. Here's the thing, I don't know how many times, honestly, I have no fucking idea because it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my job. It doesn't affect how people perceive me. I've built up a reputation beyond what anybody can say about me. If one person is telling people to ignore me, it's their word against mine, and I know that I'm reliable for and that what I say has value. This is why I tell them I don't bother responding to any type of video like Cooper's or Raptor's stream, because at the end of the day, nothing here is simple or black and white, nor is any situation or anything that happens in this community. There's multiple sides to every story, but arguing publicly or coming at Raptor, Destin, or whoever doesn't look good for us. It's why going forward, we've tried to curtail a lot of that and try not to get involved in public disputes. And Tony even says he doesn't like certain people making trouble all the time. I get that, but for this conversation, I'm trying to point out that even if you have bad days, even if we make mistakes, we should try to do better, and that means not aggressively trolling or responding publicly when players upset us or say certain things. He even says, Dustin talks shit about me in the French chat before. I tell him just ignore that. Raptor once again talks shit about me all the time. Even other staff probably talks shit about me all the time in DMs. But at the end of the day, I can't go on a rampage or be vindictive against them. After everything that's happened in the past, I've tried to change my approach with dealing with things, and I don't always succeed at that. Sometimes I mess up. Sometimes it's just the reality of the situation. You even see Antonio brings up that another player was trash talking another staff member. And this staff member was upset. He didn't know why people were trash talking him. He didn't do anything and hasn't done anything to these people. But that's just how the community is. You have to ignore it. Don't let it get to you. We once again get Antonio causing another incident and me having to talk to him again. But you can still see me trying to work on staff. He makes a comment that a lot of Arabic players find distressing, racist, and I'm not saying it is racist, but I can see the problem with the comment that he made, and we'll get into that. So you get him saying, so for future tournaments, we need to start banning people from our tournaments, and it's no big deal if we don't let a team like the Arab team play. This was the comment specifically that a lot of people are on the Arabic team got upset with, as you're painting all of these players of this ethnicity as cheaters and that we shouldn't let them play. Now, to clarify, he and other competitive players were extremely frustrated and tired of facing cheaters like Semley in the last video we know cheated, like Siren we knew in the last video cheated, or Usaida, who is one of the Americans and we know from the last video cheated. These groups of players were notorious for cheating in the alpha and continuously getting found out and caught by people, so it's no surprise that the community was upset with them. Do I disagree with what Antonio's saying that they should be banned and that he should be not able to play against these people because they're cheating so rampantly and it's frustrating for the competitive community? I agree with him in that context. They keep cheating and keep getting away with it. It's the comment at the end, not letting a team like the Arab team play, that is problematic. You shouldn't be saying that. You see an Arabic player who comes to me in DMs and says the racist statement directed at the Arab team is not okay, and they strongly condemn what he says. That it's blatantly racist and it can't be ignored. I tell him, give me some time, I'll investigate it. I need to get everyone's side of the stories. I have a Arabic staff member message me upset about the comment, and you can see me respond, can you 100% say Siren, Semli, or Usleda are not cheating? He says, I don't know about Usleda, but Semli and Siren are not cheating 100%. He points out that it's about Antonio being toxic and two-faced, trying to ban people from tournaments and accusing them of cheating in public. I get why the Arabic players were upset with this. It is very distressing to have a staff member publicly say that. And this is why I say that we really need to be careful on how we raise issues publicly or accuse people of cheating. This should have been a private conversation. Now, I want to outline at this point, we didn't have all the evidence that we had in the last video. We were still collecting it, still gathering it, and trying to come to a conclusion whether the Americans were cheating and Siren and Semli were cheating. We say they're cheating and give them a ban. But at this time, and I want to reiterate, at this time, we don't have enough firmed evidence to warrant a ban. This is why I'm saying, can you 100% say they're not cheating? We aren't 100% sure. Things are coming up and they're suspicious, but I don't enough to pull the trigger. I point out Siren did cheat. He played on Ibra's account in Debarker's tournament, and it wasn't allowed, and he evaded the 48-hour ban we gave to him by playing on Golden's account today. So you can say what you like about him, but going on Ibra's account when Ibra is supposed to play in a tournament for money is cheating. Not to mention the allegations of him using a keyboard and mouse, and I'm not sure if they're true, but he has a history of doing it on Uncharted 4. I also want to point out that a lot of allegations are coming up of Siren cheating using wall hacks and other things. It's not just past allegations. A lot of evidence is coming to light in the competitive scene right now. As for Semli, a lot of competitive players think he's cheating, and maybe he's not, but apparently he got extremely good overnight, essentially, and even Sky said he's the most accused player. I say maybe neither of them are cheating or using any tools, but Siren doing what he did to ban, evade, and play on the tournament is cheating because you're not supposed to do that in a tournament match. You're not supposed to play on other people's accounts. Later on, like I said in the last video, we get enough evidence to show that they are cheating. I have the staff members saying, everyone shares account, it's not lag switching or hacking, everyone does it. I point out, one, it's not allowed. In the Reloaded server, it's not allowed. You're not supposed to be sharing accounts. It's in the rules for a reason. We point out he also did it in a tournament. That's cheating. If I enter a tournament and I get somebody to play for me, like Thugs or Bosna, whoever else is a really good player, Pumas, for example, it's 100% cheating. The staff member says, I know they shared account and they cheated. I agree. And I say, well, that's the crux of the issue. I have to deal with Antonio saying no to allowing the Arab teams. That's another issue that I have to deal with. And you can see me point out here, I have a flight tomorrow, so I'm having to do this right before a flight. I tell Antonio he needs to apologize to the Arabic community and the players that he's offended or upset. I point out, yes, perhaps they are cheating. Siren was caught cheating in the way that he did a ban evade and played on somebody's account in the tournament when he's not supposed to. However, I tell him you cannot say ban all the players on this Arabic team as a general statement as if they're all cheaters. Heck, maybe even Semli is cheating, but we don't have enough proof of that at this time. Because I have an issue now with a staff member saying something that can be perceived as racist. You can see me saying, I have a flight tomorrow early and I really don't want to deal with it. It's not exactly something that anyone wants to deal with right before flight, and yet here it is. I told him I can't have staff acting like that. Raptors did that to the Germans, and he did that to the Arabic players, and he got booted from this team because of how he kept acting. You can see Antonio get upset here, saying he wasn't talking about the Arabic players in general, he was talking about the cheaters from the Arabic team, that he's not racist, and nothing he said was racist, that they're playing the victim card. He gets upset that they call him two-faced. He also says he's played on an Arabic team for 8 years in Uncharted 4 with one of those players being Porton. He asked me, do you think I'm racist? And I want to outline here, I can get why Antonio's being upset about this. He's getting screwed over by these hackers in the game scene. He's getting tired of it, and he brings up that he doesn't want this team to play because there's hackers on it. And the comment he made was problematic. Don't get me wrong. He should have clarified it better and not had it said in a public area. I even say to Antonio, I'm not saying it's racist, I'm saying it's perceived as racist, but either way, just apologize. Another staff member says, if you don't apologize, you're just going to be bombarded. I agree with that. I tell him, do I personally think it's racist? No, but I can see how it can be interpreted like that. One of the other staff members says, saying Arabs or calling Arabs as Arabs isn't racist. I point out, if you say all Arabs are thieves, for example, it can come off as racist. If you say ban this Arabic team or all the players on this Arabic team because they are cheaters, there's an implication that it could be seen as racist if you didn't really specify the cheating part. If that makes sense, I guess the better way you could have worded that is if I were upset about certain players playing in a tournament tournament because of cheating allegations against them or the fact that they cheat, I would say I don't think these players, X, Y, Z, should play in the tournament because they have been cheating and there's strong evidence to suggest it. But once again, it's how the comment was made. Antonio says, where did I say ban all Arabs? And I say to them, it can be seen as an attack on them because the way it was worded may come off as all of them should be banned because they all must be X, in this case, cheaters. Antonio says I was talking about the team, we were talking about them. And I say, so for the next tourney, we can't let cheaters play a team like the Arabs. That is what he wrote, and I put it in quotation marks. And I ask him, can you say everyone 100% on that team is cheating? If can't, you're attacking all of them and their character. That's also why they're upset. He says I just called them Arabs when he was referring to the certain players that he made the comments towards. And I just tell him it's just better to apologize. He says, as one can call Germans Germans. And I say, is there one German on the team? Whether or not you think it's racist or an attack on their character, whatever, you've just upset certain people and they're saying it's an attack on them. So it's easier to apologize whether it was racist or not, rather than double down and go, I'm not going to apologize. And I told him I had two of them messaging me saying it came off across like an attack. And all that D. Barker, whoever the tournament host, has to say is our moderation team for the tournament, after careful review, has determined after recent incidents that this team cannot play, or these players on the teams cannot play. And that's what he should have said, and Antonio agrees with that. Instead, D. Barker really just threw Antonio under the bus here. I feel bad for Antonio because that statement should have never been made public, and it was taken out of context, and the way it was written was taken out of the conversation. You can see Antonio here saying, I should apologize to Semley or Siren, but why am I apologizing to the others, like Semley, not Semley, if Keep or whoever? And I say, if these people are messaging me saying we, it means them as a community is upset. I just tell them, you have to be smarter, and that's what I'm trying to tell you, because we just had this conversation about how you came across with Destin. And if they're messaging me, it's better to bite the bullet and go, okay, I'm just gonna apologize. Even if D. Barker threw you under the bus. I say to him, can we 100% prove all of the Arabic players on that team are cheating? Yes or no with 100% accuracy? He says, I know Semley and Siren cheated in some way, and Golden shared accounts to Siren, and Ibra shared accounts to Siren. And I say, do we have 100% proof Semley cheated at this time? He says, no, but I don't need 100% proof to be sure. And I tell him, can't tell them you shouldn't play because cheaters like them, because he points out Porton and Mashari aren't cheating and are clear. This is what I mean by saying that entire team shouldn't play. It comes across like those players are cheating even if they have no involvement in it. I just point out to him, is it a good look to have staff talking to players like how we did to Destin, or making comments like he did? I tell him we can't go accuse people like Semley in public about cheating, so we can have suspicions, but until we have proof, you have to act neutral. Whether it's Semley, Destin, or the Arabic team, is it okay for Reloaded to go, Semley is a cheater without proof? He says, I didn't expect D. Barker to send that screenshot. I told him I didn't either, but now I have two people upset with it. And Antonio got the rough end here. He says he was talking in private about two guys. Once again, D. Barker should have never had that private conversation sent to the public. I tell him I can't do anything about Barker, but now I have to go talk to my staff who's now, one, upset some players in the community, 2, is being called racist. You can argue whatever if it is or not. 3, accusing a player without evidence of cheating publicly. 4, wanting to ban an entire team, implying they all are cheaters. And maybe they are, I don't know. But the reason I'm saying it is to apologize. It solves the problem right now. Boom, done. We're all a happy little family. We don't have the Arabic staff or Arabic community upset with Antonio. You can see Antonio say he's upset when Keep called me a cheater and he didn't apologize to him. And Antonio goes, maybe I'll apologize if he does. And I point out, Raptor said the same things. The Germans don't need an apology. I'm not doing it. And I tell them they can have suspicions about staff members or other competitive players and try to report things, but are they publicly going and saying ban Antonio from the cheating tournament because he's cheating? Because D. Barker publicly admitted that and shared it. He says, if they report me, I deserve an apology too. And I say, I can't babysit staff constantly either. I need staff to act a certain way because the way we come across or perceived is going to create drama or have negative impressions upon the project community, and that we're trying to be more reputable and more professional going forward. But if we have a staff member accusing people like Semley without proof, or potentially targeting only the Arabic team for cheating, it can be looking bad very optics-wise. You can see another staff member say, Antonio, look, I've not been fond too much of your behavior recently. Every time I open this chat, it's comp drama and you're involved in some way. It feels like it's always you against the community and or Vampyre. This isn't even related to the Arabic comment you made, as I don't find it racist. Unfitting? Sure, but not racist. It's about you not holding yourself to a certain standard. If the accusations turned out to be true, the way you handled the situation seems childish to me. You're part of the Reloaded devoted team and you need to act like it. It's fine to have toxic traits. I'm not saying change who you are entirely, but you need to conduct yourself professionally when it matters most. Vampyre isn't completely right either, but I see what the real problem is. I respect you for holding your ground, but you gotta know when to stop playing the defense card. This shouldn't be a problem in the future, which is why I'm bringing it up now. You can see Antonio get upset here, saying he's the idiot representing so many players, and he's bringing up that these people are hacking, and that he's not gonna bring up people cheating. And I try to tell him it's not that. You're misunderstanding this person. He's not attacking you. He's just saying about how we get perceived to represent ourselves. It's important. If you want to come into this chat and rant or someone annoys you, I'd 100% prefer that. Somebody being an ass, rant about it here. But if we start crossing into the public sphere to do that, it looks bad, and especially if we involve ourselves in drama, which is what this staff member is saying. It's not about being racist or right or wrong. It's about how we involve ourselves as staff. Antonio unfortunately says, I won't anymore bring up potential cheaters. And I once again say that's not what we're saying. It's just don't involve yourself or get involved in public drama that comes to light like that. And he says it wasn't public. Once again, D. Barker sent a screenshot of his DMs into the public sphere. So I don't blame Antonio for getting upset about this. And that's why I tell him be careful what you say, who you talk to, or what you say. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that. I even tell him I'm not mad at him. I'm just trying to elaborate on why you have to be careful in our optics about the situation. And he says, yep, fair. So now we get to August. And remember, I'm working 2 jobs at this point and getting about 3 hours of sleep. So what do we have? Me having to tell Antonio in DMs to stop taking the bait from people and arguing with them and fighting with them. You can see him responding to what a snake, getting upset with him, and starting to get provocative with him and argue back. You can see Keep join in and start arguing as well, making sure to ping what a snake and responding. He pings Antonio saying you're exposed to everyone, but keep up that I don't know what's going on act, and he starts getting mad and responding back. I'm asking him to Antonio to explain why is he fighting with Keep. He says Snake and him are trolling and they're just friends, but he says Keep is trash talking him and won't be quiet because he called him a cheater and racist. Remember the previous conversation where Antonio and Keep got upset about Antonio's comment and Keep went and called him racist. So they are at odds with each other over that last incident. Antonio tells me he had a bad day at work and people trash talking him doesn't help. I say, can't we just, I don't know, ignore it? Raptor does this all the time. Once again, makes videos or bitches about me and I just ignore it. You can see him getting upset with how Keep is responding to him. And I tell him, you know, a fight is going to be the perfect solution to this problem. I tell him I can't control the entire community. I can time out people. I can ask them to stop. But if you guys engage in this type of behavior, I can't censor it entirely or it'll be abuse of power on mine. I can't time out one person if you're both in the chat engaging in this type of rhetoric and fighting with each other. I tell him the problem is we've had this conversation multiple times prior to now. Problem with this is it's ongoing behavior issues from both you and Keep. In my eyes, it's a lot of drama that isn't needed, and I'm not blaming Antonio entirely. Keep jumped in to ping him and harass him. I tell him at this stage I'm probably going to remove you both. I tell him that you can't just lash out at people because you have problems going on your life or problems in your life or stuff is going down. That isn't a reason. He gets upset because he says people just keep trash talking him and he shouldn't just have to stand by and let them. And I point out why not let them? Why not just ignore them? Why get involved? I tell him, look, at the end of the day, we're trying to improve and be better. Monday to Friday, I'm up 20 hours or more and I've woken up today with a headache because it's Saturday due to lack of sleep. But at the end of the day, I don't come in raging or storming or whatever it is you're doing to people because it's not justification. If we're trying to be more mature and professional, we can't act like that. And Antonio has this habit of lashing out and it's becoming a pattern. Instead of handling situations more professionally or not getting involved in the public eye, he keeps on getting involved. He says I should protect my staff, but I also tell him staff needs to know when to stay silent and not engage. Do you see me going and raging in Raptor's video every time he acts up? At a certain point, being an adult is knowing when to walk away or be silent. Antonio gets upset and says why should he stay silent after being accused of being a racist and a cheater, that it won't happen. And once again ask him why is your first protocol not to engage and to just DM another moderator or an admin to do something about it? Just wait. If you're upset, ping us, get to us, and do nothing in the meantime. Why is it an automatic option to go times to raise my fist and get into a fight right when it happens? He says he reported things already and nothing happened and he should be able to defend himself. And I told him we did do something. We told him we're not taking action against you. And I asked him, what do you want me to do exactly here? Ban him forever? Antonio gets upset and says he keeps calling me a cheater in public. Why is he able to do that? And I tell him, you know, people call me names all the time in this server. They call me evil, they call me a tyrant, they say I'm a dictator, whatever it is they want to say. And I ask him, why do you care what people think, especially here? I tell him a lot of people probably have very negative opinions of me. They likely vocalize them all the time in other chats or on stream. I even go to work and maybe a lot of people don't like me and I'm more than aware of it. But I don't care to involve myself in petty drama or what people say behind my back because at the end of the day, I'm there to do my job and not get involved in such politics. If I gave a damn about what every person thought of me, I'd never get anything done. And Antonio is upset. He's saying he doesn't want to be called racist, especially by people in the community here. And I tell him somebody's always going to call you something here. It's just how it is. But how you conduct yourself or react to it is what matters. You can see another player bring up that Antonio starts abusing the mute button, doing it to multiple people when he's upset with them. And I'm not saying Antonio's wrong here. Some of the players in this community, especially those like Raptor, try to get to people and try to provoke them. And I'd rather a moderator use the timeout button if people are arguing and engaging in an aggressive banter with each other or it's getting out of control. But you can't engage in the banter yourself and then mute people when you're upset. And I point out, at the end of the day, are you not representing us as staff? Why isn't it so important that you need to bite back all the time? You can even see Antonio say the best outcome for them would be me banning Antonio. And I tell him I'm not going to ban you, but what I'm saying is at this stage I'm about you from staff because I can't keep having staff act like this. But instead I have to deal with what appears to be really pointless drama. And I bring up, is it going to be this every few weeks for you to, and Keep or whoever else to act up again and again and again? It's a problematic issue when my own staff is fighting in public chats. And I ask him, why did neither you, Keep, DM me, Sky, or any other admin to see what we can do, and we'll respond when we can? He says I pinged all moderator staff. Yeah, okay, you did. But then you started acting how you did prior to pinging the moderator staff. You first engaged with them. You can't ping staff after you got involved in drama in a fight and then expect us to do something when you were part of the problem. You chose to get involved instead of forgetting about it and disengaging and then pinging us. Instead, I now have about 6 people messaging about it or more, and it's a ton of drama in the public to deal with staff issues with 2 staff members not getting along. And I tell them I have very limited time right now in the foreseeable future, and what little time I do have is for server improvements and server stuff and doing things like whitelisting. Point is, why do I have staff acting like children and fighting each other? Because Keep is riling him up. And you can see Epic at the time say, I don't know if a mod should constantly provoke a player only because he or he doesn't like him or her. And I ask who, and Epic says Keep. I say show me the picture, and I agree with this. You shouldn't have any staff provoking or instigating another player and trying to get them upset. It's not a good look. I even tell Antonio, why'd you even engage? It's such a pointless fight. Just ignore Keep. Why is Keep pinging you, or why are you instigating? He shouldn't be pinging you, and you shouldn't be responding in the manner you did. If it's something that is urgent and needs to have a resolution right there, I get needing to ping a moderator, all moderator staff. But what is the moderator going to do at the time? Mute both Keep and you? You're both staff and attacking each other. Foxy was being neutral here and being cautious. And it's problematic and hard to do stuff if staff members are involved in the argument and being on the offense or the defense. I tell him I don't know what to do with him long term, to give me time to think about it, but I can't promise of keeping him or Keep on staff. And he says you have the best player in the game about to leave because he can't play and have fun. There's many problematic people around. And this is part of the problem with the community. There's always so much drama and toxicity and aggressiveness towards a bunch of players. It's really a shame because we could have such a healthy and good community and there's always some drama happening. You can see me say to Antonio, you're putting me in a rough situation and I'm really not at the capacity to handle that right now. I'll think over what to do. But if I keep you, there will be consequences. Antonio says if they don't convince me, I'll just ask you to remove me. I think he's talking about me having terms and conditions for him staying and he'll probably stop playing. I'm not sure what he means by this. However, I then tell them I remove Keep and Antonio from staff. I can't be having such conflicts. Another staff member responds, it's a shame, but I don't blame you. He doesn't know how to control themselves. They don't know how to control themselves. You then get Antonio messaging me after I remove him with months of trying to get him to stop the consistent problematic behavior. You think that would be it, right? I wasn't rude. I wasn't mean. I just told him, look, going forward, I can't do this and have you here playing these same games and repeating the same cycle. I even try to keep telling him to stop trying to let people get to him and for him to block the people who are bugging him and to have moderators deal with the situations. You can see me saying August 6th, their moderators dealing with it. August 19th, I said keep fighting with Keep. I don't care who started it. I muted you both. And I only muted for 24 hours. And Antonio brings up that you don't care, but it's always the same people bugging him. Guess people are free to send this kind of message. I said, look, I don't care who starts it, but the block button works great. And he says that's the problem. You don't care, essentially. It's not that I don't care. At this point, I'm working myself to death. And this can be avoided if you just block the person or you don't let it get to you. Or you come and tell us about it and we start to time them out or mute them. But you guys engaging in these fights and choosing to respond when somebody gets aggressive with you or provokes you is just you contributing to the problem. You need to know when to disengage and to stop responding and then come to moderators for us to do things. And I'm not the only one who thinks he's overreacting, but we'll get to that in another chat message. You can see me not responding here, and this wasn't intentional. I was just super busy at the time. He says that they're trying to get Antonio banned, and that's the purpose of them trying to rile him up. And I wish I would have had the time to respond to this, but I was just deadly overworked and just didn't have the time to do so. This is why the ticket system is so much better than relying on one moderator or admin to handle things. And I get another staff member say, just tell Antonio to shut up and leave you alone. I swear he has been a scam. And what happens? After I remove him from staff, I start becoming public enemy number one to him. I'm not going to go through all the trouble finding every instance, but you basically start seeing him say how awful I am, or things such as, here I am agreeing with Vampyre, crazy, or just generally being rude. Potentially the chats were deleted because I believe they were in the Legacy Nation Discord, and I recall that is where Siren came to fight with people, but I can't locate the chats. And Antonio got upset with me all because I took you off staff and didn't have the time while working 2 jobs to deal with someone calling you bald or freaking out and you being a baby instead of responding like an adult and ignoring them. And you might think, oh, you can't get those combos, why should I believe? You can get proof of this statement from Alan where he says as much. You can see above in the previous video conversations that we just went through. Me going to bat to try to keep Antonio, me trying to work with him. I may not have deleted chats of him. I may not have chats of him saying I suck, but you can see him saying here that I treated Antonio like I did Alan badly. How I'm not sure if this is Alan or Antonio or other people made a YouTube video about me or the servers. I'm not 100% sure what they meant by this. I never asked. How the same thing happened to Antonio that happened to Alantane. And I'll get on what happened with Alantane in the next segment of this video, but here's the thing. If you're going to play revisionist history about how awful I am to you, make sure you have receipts or proof, because I provided them of me trying to work with Antonio. Me being awful is trying to work with you to keep you around and giving you endless chances to stop fighting with everyone constantly, trying to ask you to ignore people. Here's the thing. Fun fact, back in December 2025, I actually asked Antonio if he kept getting involved in drama and extended a leave for him to back in December to rejoin the team. I'm not even mean to him in this message. I'm not saying anything rude to him. I'm just saying, what's your thoughts of being back on balance? It's been a long time. I think you've got an idea not to involve yourself with them, and I did appreciate your feedback and contribution. He says, I don't have much time at the moment, but I appreciate your request. I keep the offer open. If that changes, let me know. I even spoke to another player about Antonio, and when they asked about him, I said, I asked him multiple times to change his behavior, but he blames me or has a grudge against me for moving him. Like another staff member said, quit it and stop involving yourself. I shouldn't have to deal with stress from my own team. And this was the final message I got from him from Reloaded a while ago. He's messaged me after this, but when I wrote this script, I wrote final message because I didn't think I'd talk to him again after this. You can see him when Alantane drama happened. He messaged me this saying, if you talked about me behind your back as always, I haven't been around for several months because of you since you made this game boring. I can humbly tell you that you're one of the most unpleasant people I've ever seen online and that you have a power complex. Do you want to be in charge anywhere? What's the matter? Do you not have control over anything in real life? Boyfriend keep you on a leash? Not to mention your last message was asking me to come back with the balance team, which would be the last thing I'd ever do in my life, work with adults. I point out I never said anything about you. The only time I've brought up Antonio is in the balance chats when I bring up, hey, I don't want drama like Antonio or like Raptor. Could we avoid public squabbles or things where we can't control the optics publicly? That's the only time I brought him up. I even tell him I have no idea where you got your information from that I said anything about you because I didn't go back and reread what I wrote. It was only to Alan. I haven't said anything about you. And this is where I say I don't give a fuck what you think, but if you're gonna act like I said shit, at least back it up with evidence rather than just saying what your verdict is without actually supplying it. Because you can go through this video and see me point out constantly to him, please stop. I'd like to keep you on balance. I'd like to work with you, and him just ignoring it. This is me treating you badly. Having a power complex is asking for me to stop. Like, I don't have time to shit talk former staff or even other players constantly, unless you do something that day and I go, is this person serious? And that's a blue moon occasion. I don't get into fights with people, and you shouldn't get into fights with people if you can't take them fighting back. You don't want people to poke at your insecurities. Don't start fighting with everyone all the time and provoking them. I mean, it's simple to not go and bitch on someone on YouTube or in other chats and then not expect them to bite back when you provoke them, especially when you start fights or you provoke people or get mad and start returning fire when they lash out at you. But then when they called you bald or mention it, you explode into a crying tantrum and ask me or other admins to deal with it. I'm saying this because you can't instigate and provoke at people and then they pick up on your insecurities or hash out disses to you or provoke you back or bite back and then you get upset. It's one fact if you didn't engage and they kept harassing you, but you either started the fights or you felt the need to respond to it. When that happens and someone strikes a nerve, you then can't handle it. You then come running to our staff to deal with it when you yourself got in this situation by responding or starting the conversation with them. And this is how a lot of competitive players operate. They bite off more than they can chew, and then when it gets out of hand, they start crying and running for us to use our moderation powers to deal with an incident that they got themselves in. And I'm not saying Antonio's this awful person. He really isn't. But I'm trying to point out that even when I try to do everything correctly here and try to work with the person and keep them on staff and give them so many chances, I end up being the bad guy and the narrative gets twisted. So after the debacle of Antonio, I want another competitive player who could help out, preferably from Latin America, because I know they have really good, extremely proficient competitive players, and they know the game extremely well. We get to Alantane, who is older and should be much better than Antonio, right? Well, that depends on who you ask. Everything started fine. Alantane wasn't really a problem. I was very happy with him. Remember, he does a lot for the competitive community. He does things for Thugs Tournament. He really is an integral part of the competitive scene. Once again, I give praises where it's due. He is an extremely valuable competitive player, and he does a lot for the community. I'd have to tell Alan and warn him not to engage in certain drama at first, and it seemed like he listened for the most part. You can see me here telling him not to involve himself with Sultan, or Semley as he's known as. He was featured in the last video for cheating, because I believe he was arguing that Alan has a hacked PS3, despite, you know, Semley having the hacked PS3 and cheating in the game. You see Alan Payne saying he won't waste any of more of his time, and I tell him, just stop responding and disengage. If you keep talking to them, they'll never stop. Just don't even involve yourself with it. I tell him they got mad that Siren got banned. I didn't permaban Ibra or Semley at this time for cheating. Semley got a 1-month ban for cheating, and they're playing stupid games DMing me about corrupt moderators. I tell them again, stop replying to him. I say block Siren so you don't get DM'd him and Semley. They're just mad they cannot play. I actually did defend Alan in this chat because they were picking on him for no reason, but I told him, look, just don't involve yourself. I've already defended you. Fun fact, this is the chat I was talking about in Legacy where Antonio was being rude to me or acting rude, and yes, it was deleted from what I recall. You can see him say here, I talked with Gampo's Gustavo Wolfie about the ladder, and in the previous DM, I tell him to don't involve yourself with him, let him throw a fit. Even Antonio said you don't cheat plus stripe because it was in their server. Now, the one thing to understand is specifically I've told staff at this point, 1, don't get involved with drama, especially not publicly. 2, don't share the private chats we talk in. And 3, if you do share private chats, it'll be a permanent ban. Every staff member was updated on this. For the most part, Alan, at least mostly comparatively to Antonio, listened and doesn't seem to get involved in that much drama. So what became the issue? And we'll get to that, but I caution him not to get involved in public drama. He says Gustavo and others trash talk Reloaded and Uncharted 4 every time they stream, and I tell them they can trash talk, they're free to do that, but when it bleeds into attacks on staff members or others, then I'll start to take action. And you can see him, Alantane, saying he has tried to come back to the competitive scene in Uncharted 4 with Stripes and ETH players. ETH, I don't know, maybe that stands for something, with the sole purpose of harassing Reloaded, so that Reloaded's competitive players will switch to Uncharted 4. None of them take it seriously because we already know Gustavo. And you see me tell them they can do what they like, but I'm not losing sleep if people play Uncharted 4 competitively. Just leave it. No need to contribute to that discussion in the chat. And you see him say this isn't the first time Gustavo defended cheaters just to cause trouble and annoy others on the server. When I banned Semley and Siren, he did the same thing. Now he's doing it with Ant. His only purpose is try and undermine the decisions I make. And I tell him, yeah, I do try to keep players around. It's why Blank is still around despite being a cunt. So Gustavo defending cheaters and acting like he is, yes, he acts very immature. He has a lot of problems in the community, but I'm not going to ban him because of that. And you can see, fun fact, Gustavo, I defended you here saying you can say and act how you want despite one of my staff saying to ban you. So next time you go talk shit about me and how awful I am, I actually do try to help defend people when I can, if you deserve it. What happens next is we get a report about a player from the Latin American community who's being extremely homophobic and racist. The reason I'm showing this is comes no secret who it is, and we'll touch upon that later. The attachments don't show, but I ask a Spanish moderator to translate, and you can see what he says. Like the person in the image says, my moderator, who is Spanish, translated what was in the image because I don't speak Spanish. I asked if there's any other users involved. He says the person who made the ticket, no, but they accused me of deleting messages and playing the victims. He shows the full group context because I need to know more information, so we get me asking more staff to eventually look into this situation while this player is providing more information. I have one of my staff come in to explain what happened and tells me the translated message that Gumberto deleted the message and then the insults started from there. Wesker created a ticket, Beto is banned, the group becomes angry, the others start insulting Wesker, the last screenshot, the group rallied for Gumberto and came to his defense, even saying lines about Wesker, such as Wesker deleting messages that were never sown. This is at least the Wesker's side of the story that happened. I have my other staff members come in. It seems like a toxic situation in this group chat all the time. Sadly, this was the old Latin American WhatsApp group. They had numerous problems with toxicity and other issues that they deleted this, and moderators or people stepped up to lead the moderation of that chat, and hopefully they got better. You see one of them say they've known Wesker for years and have never really seen him cause issues without reasons, so where they stand, he's in the clear. As for Beto, he's already been banned. A permaban will likely be lessened, as others have received less punishment, as just as bad, but any future offenses will result in a longer ban. I have thugs say I'd ask a few other people in the Latin American group their perspective, with the asterisk ones likely to be bitter towards Wesker, but I'd want to cover all bases. So I asked them, can you check in with the Latin community members, hopefully the ones without biases? If it turns out Wesker did provoke and start insults, he'll get a similar ban to Beto. That makes it fair for the same amount of time. If it's not true, then we can close the ticket without recourse. I tell Wesker, if you did do what was said, just come clean and tell us. Yet Wesker saying the fact that Herberto could have just apologized as his last message was sent. I ask him after his information chime in, did you insult or provoke him at all? And he says to make him say those words, no. Then I'm asking if you provoked or insulted him, not whether he was racist or homophobic. I'm aware of that, and it's not justification to respond how he did. But I'm asking if you intentionally provoked or insulted him with the intent to get him to say those things. And I'm not excusing his behavior, but I want to know how it started. He said this fight started out of nowhere while I was working 10 a.m. in the morning. I say, so you didn't provoke at all. He says that he was pinged, he wrote the messages, he deleted it straight away, he never said a word after that. I asked, is there anyone in the Latin American community who can tell us whether he instigated or you instigated or who started it? He says they added him back twice to make sure he was seeing everyone make fun of him, but I still try to get more information. You can see me keep going and going. You can pause and read if you want to. I come up with what I believe is the situation, and more facts came to light later. I say Beto message or ping mentioned Wesker. Wesker responded back to the message as Sanosuke wrote. Beto got angry at him and his friends started trying to argue with Wesker. Wesker didn't really respond or left and was added back. Beto kept engaging or escalating, and maybe Wesker responded back to insults because Beto kept going after him and kept trying to keep the fight going. Beto started with racist and homophobic comments. Wesker reported here, we took actions. Beto's friends were upset with Beto and he was banned, and he came in here and reloaded to get him unbanned and stated that Wesker was just as talking or insulting him, but the deleted messages, so Wesker rarely responded from what it looks like. I tell Wesker, because of this, I don't think the evidence or situation warrants a ban for him, despite the outcries of other people. I have nothing to really go on here that suggests they have factual information on what happened from what I can tell. If they have toxic outbursts in the future, to report it, but if you cannot delete messages in the future, that would help us out a lot. I'll leave the conversations for others to respond to if they have anything more to add so far, but I don't think this warrants any other attention or action. Beto and the rest of the Latin community were spoken about their behavior. Beto got a ban and will have it reduced and be able to play again, and Wesker reported vile toxicity to make community better, and unfortunately Slintley got targeted for it. I think that covers everything, but once again, I'll wait for those 3 other staff members to chime in to add anything else to the situation. Doug says he asked a couple people what provoked Beto, but generally agree this so far seems like a unnecessary escalation by Beto, where the Latin American community got upset that the insults were taken seriously. He says he'll see if anything else comes up. He suggests Wesker to leave the group entirely and block if he's not comfortable engaging with them, but if you do stay there, don't delete messages and collect receipts. And Random says they said everything perfectly. I agree with them. So we still have thugs looking into things at this point, just to make sure, because maybe this timeline, what I gave, is wrong. I'm not in that group. They're not in this group, so we were doing investigative work. What Sano says is that I think also there's no proof that provided that Wesker was racist towards the Latin American groups. As explained, you can see the deleted messages on WhatsApp, and the deleted messages were from people defending Beto. If the case is closed, it's better for Wesker not to participate anymore because it's not really worth it. The group is a mess. This was Sano kind of giving his final verdict on the situation. Also, at the time, we didn't have enough information. Wesker did apparently provoke to some degree, but we didn't have enough to go on except for Beto being extremely racist and homophobic. Thugs and Random once again stated they'd look into it. So we discussed this in the chat with everyone. I say it's not appropriate when you have excessive racist, homophobic posts target people who are not straight and have posts that are very racist to people of color, specifically black people. I'm not going to really warrant your bullshit in the community. You know fully well what you're doing, and if you're acting that way, it says a lot about your attitude. We have staff who are gay, who are not white, so I'm not going to tolerate those comments and those who come to defend it. I tell them they've all been timed out and warm, time them out again, and do actual bans if they keep on raising hell in public chat. This is what tends to happen with competitive players. Someone gets a ban for whatever reason, whether it's racism, homophobia, hacking, or cheating, and they start riling up themselves and the others in the public chats and creating drama. It's not a way to handle things. You may not agree with the outcome of a situation. information. But all you're doing when you raise hell in a public chat, involving people in more drama and causing more issues to come to light. You then have Alantane here say that, from what I understand, they sent me proof of Wesker started the insulting. Once they replied to Wesker, Wesker took a screenshot and then deleted all his insulting messages so they wouldn't do the same to him. I told them to file a ticket and send their evidence because it's, as they say, we have a serious problem because Wesker's playing the victim and he's doing the same thing. He says not enough context is given the banter, including racism, homophobia. It's going in all directions and no one seems innocent in the WhatsApp groups. I don't know how seriously we can take reports or complaints when people are voluntarily joining and participating in this group. He says at first glance Beto is a piece of shit for what he did. The only thing he is to consider is that with all these incidents are the two things he mentioned. While the messages Alan agrees are disgusting that pops up, he says if you're also in the group and you're still something of a matricist, if you're still there, it's anytime we get a report from this group, we have to urge them to leave the group and we can't reliably moderate a third-party group. He says he has a lot of feeling that when players report others in this group, they're also conflict, but we don't have the resources and ability to actually see who's provoking and who's defending themselves. And he says it doesn't mean Beto isn't awful for saying it in the first place, but it means bans will be inconsistent. Alan says we should have a rule. If they leak information from that group, they should be banned because it's clear they can do it only to annoy each other and they insult and act like that among each other all the time. I tell Alan, yes, they can file evidence, that would help, but it gets tired of dealing with the same constant racism and homophobia as well. I point out there's also minors in those chats, so when they're sharing porn, it's actually a crime in most Latin American communities, and they can all get in serious trouble. I point out that I agree with this. If you're in that group, you're also like to an extent, you know what type of drama goes on there. I'd say it actually could get us in trouble too. Not really us if we're not a part of the WhatsApp group, but if it comes to light that, you know, you're sharing porn with minors, I don't really want you in the community. I'll ban you because at the end of the day, I'm going to go and say, hey, yeah, this person was doing something illegal. We ban them. They're not a part of our community. You can see Alan Tane say there's 90 plus people in that WhatsApp chat and 99% talk with bad words. They send porn stickers and they get kicked many times, but they do racism, homophobia, and they all laugh about it in the chat. I tell him, look, if they get banned, that's on them. We have staff who's gay, black, not white, not male. Maybe don't be a shitty person and be racist and homophobic. Alan says he doubt they'll change. They're much worse on Facebook, but he's seen a huge change there. I think the bet is if you leak WhatsApp information, ban, because it feels like they're using that rule to get revenge or laugh at somebody. Feel sympathy for someone who's posting homophobic and racist stuff and then getting caught. You're not a good person when you do that. Yes, if you do it in private, you still suck, but at least it's not in public. I don't think you're a good person, but at least it's better than the alternative of doing it publicly. I even tell him, you know what a solution would be for everyone? The Latin Americans stop engaging in this rhetoric and stop posting problematic things as they do. I tell them, if you want to tell them to stop and stop dealing with this constantly, I can listen to unbanning Beto, but I'm getting tired of dealing constantly with the racism and homophobia and problems from that region. You can see Thugs Bunny here, being the awesome guy that he is, saying he's going to make a post about this in his advanced channel and tell them to get their shit together. He says, I'm sure some people will listen. I just feel if we would show people grace, they would respond by behaving at least a little bit better, treat us like humans and act like real adults. I tell them, I agree with Thugs here. It's just really upsetting when you have people in this community who act that way, misogynistic, homophobic, or racist. You know, we're a very small community and everyone really loves these games. We want to try to include as many people as possible, and it is not a good look for the competitive scene or even the scene in general if you have people being this vile towards each other or acting up as they do. Alan Tane says he tells Beto this and he's very happy. He promises to stop that kind of humor and avoid problems in the future. Everything seems to be going well. I have another staff member say I disagree with the rule leaking information is banned in these chats, these public chats, because if somebody's being harassed, they have to be able to say something. They agree it's out of Reloaded's jurisdiction and urge the reporting player to leave, but I would never punish someone for trying to seek justice if they went too far with the jokes. I tell him not to tell them not to leak staff or not report people because it's not what we agreed upon. It'll just lead to them being the same type of people and just not reporting it, which repeats the cycle. Because Raptor did that same thing and it led to people being scared not to tell us. And we're trying to make this community a really good place. Even if Wesker instigated, and I said he likely did, what point does it excuse the racism and homophobia? Just because someone makes you mad at work doesn't mean you get to yell racist slurs or punch your coworker in the face. You know, these are grown men, not children. But you might be confused by it because they do act like that. We have Alan Tane say Humberto and his friends won't make those jokes anymore. They left the group. I tell them I'll unban Beto today. I asked Alan, did you see Wesker say homophobic or racist things? Or are you assuming he did? Did you actually witness it? He says, I didn't see him say the N-word exactly. I saw him say all sorts of insults. Even worse, I wasn't the only one. Then Wesker deleted his messages so they wouldn't be shown. He says he treats them like monkey or low IQ people because they're from Mexico. Sano chimes in here and says, you must be kidding. Mexicans call Brazilians as monkeys since day one. I guess there is some kind of rivalry between Mexico and Brazil. I'm not Latin American. I don't know. somebody else chime in. Sano says he hasn't spoken up until now because it's the same thing, and Wesker's one of my best friends in the game. But for me, the thing that comes in all of this from the past entire competitive scene is whenever we're in the group, they try to rival us because they always lost to us. I have videos of my channel of me beating the Mexicans in a tournament in 2014. They can't beat Brazilians in tournaments since forever. Mexicans, Chileans, and Argentinians have always been much worse than Brazilians, but in their minds they're on the same level and try to create a rivalry that doesn't exist. Since they can't, they always resort to personal insults, especially calling us monkeys or the N-word. They don't care if you're actually black or white, they just call you that. In the first group, the one that was excluded now was the second. In the first few months, they called us monkeys every day, especially Luis1769, who was also Mexican. It's cultural in South America to consider oneself superior to others. Mexico tries to rival others. They think they're the number one in America, but cross the border illegally to go to the United States. Argentinians consider themselves descendants of Aryans or Nazis. A lot of fighting and rivalry is also created because of football. People come here and become animals because of their favorite teams. Calling Brazilians as monkeys is common because even though it's a crime in their own countries, the law isn't enforced. I say this because in Brazil there was a lot of racism among Brazilians themselves, but that changed more than a decade ago due to a scandal that happened during a football match. But in other countries, insulting others is still normal. Argentinians love to call Brazilians monkeys, and in return, Brazilians take advantage of Argentina's poor economy in recent years and call them poor. But as I said, many of these insults originate from football. In real life, outside the stadium or social media, things are different. They do the same with Bolivians. They call Peruvians pigeon eaters, insinuating that they are poor and have nothing to eat. Each country has its own discrimination, and it's always been used in these WhatsApp group and formerly on Facebook. But I repeat, as they try to create a rivalry with Uncharted but fail, insults rise. They can't control themselves. They spend all day on WhatsApp spouting nonsense. Honestly, it took a long time for these insults to come to light because many of these people could have easily received a permanent ban in the first month's reload, as it was every day. You could see the same person using monkey about 40 times. What I'm trying to say is all this is things are like in South America, even though it doesn't make sense. People still insult each other, like calling a white person a monkey. But now with Juampa's ban and Beto's, even if it was revoked, the exclusion of the group and everything else, they should be smarter now and stop doing this because they know from now on Reload won't tolerate it anymore since a warning has been given. Alan responds, that doesn't change the fact he started insulting them, even telling them to suck my dicks, my sons, all because he beat them in a 5v5. Furthermore, he deleted his toxic messages. He hid many more insults. There was 90 people who witnessed this. I try to tell them that hopefully this going forward makes the Latin community change and they stop with this kind of rivalry or issues or problematic behavior. And I tell him and support Ellen here that maybe nobody got the pictures or screenshots that Wesker would have posted because he deleted them and people may not have captured them. Like I said, there's two sides to the story. We aren't in the group chat, but the entire group had been problematic and had behavior issues. Neither Alan Tane nor Sano, I think, were wrong here or problematic. They both were in two separate communities within the Latin American group, and there's obviously issues or rivalries between them, and I thought this would be done. Beta was unbanned. The Latin community, American community said they would stop and fix their problematic behavior, and that going forward, hopefully, nothing else happens. We then have this happen where Sano DMs me and saying that Alan wrote in a public chat that Sano tried to defend Wesker and tried to ban Beto, and saying that Wesker was being racist first without any proof or the context. He says he's tired of this thing and he is tired of all the drama. I ask him what does it say in Spanish. He says that Alan is tagging Beto, saying that I tried everything to defend Wesker and to screw over Beto and that it didn't work. I tell him that's enough to remove him from balance. Thanks for letting me know. He then says somebody, Josian, asks him if he really wanted to ban Beto. And Alan was confusing people about Sano and misrepresenting what he said in the group chat. Sano didn't say that exactly. Sano said a lot of things, and Alan took what he said from the staff chats and just dumbed it down to Beto should be banned, and that's what Sano wanted to defend Wesker. I immediately removed Alan from staff for leaking this. I have told him and other staff chats what we talk about at Stay in staff chats. It's very upsetting when you try to work with people in this project and community and there's constant drama or they talk about things in private chats. It wastes such a huge amount of our time working on server stuff or organizing things or doing cool stuff for the project or even modding when we have to deal with drama, and there's always drama. You see Alan say I'm sorry, I'm overcome with emotion with what Sano did. He thanks me for everything. He says the last thing I can help you with is they formed another Uncharted 2 group, but it doesn't have half the members he used to. They're now anti-toxicity, so I think that the problem between them serves some purpose. And I even tell him I hope they stop being so toxic in the community, he says the same thing. I have Alan joke here saying Humberto's unbanned date is Alan gets his bod removed. I tell him I'll unban him soon, and I'm not even mad at Alan. I'm kind of more disappointed. I tell him I'm mad at you for the leaking stuff. You really got unbalanced, and then you go do that. He says he apologizes for that mistake. He says he's not gonna lie though. He'll always be 100% honest, and he was angry to see what Sano did. First used one face in the WhatsApp group, then another face in the admin chat. I literally exploded from seeing so many people. I say the thing is, he's on staff. He has to act like that. He can't go, yeah, I wanted you banned as staff. That helps no one, so he did the right thing. And Alan says that's why I can't take it anymore. I'm so sorry. I want to point out that I wasn't rude to Alan. I wasn't mean to him. I specifically told him, hey, I'm removing you because you breached protocols and broke any trust I have in you. There's no reason why I would even talk anything staff related with you because you've shown you'll go tell everyone and tell me what the outcome is when it isn't what you wanted. Like, you can see me say it here. I respond to him on April 13th saying I banned a account that one of the banned players is using. Alan then comes and says, I see you talking about a grand pardon for certain players. He would advise me to forgive Brian Ora. He's a great help for scrims and streams. I tell him I can't really comment on these things with non-staff, and I think that's fair. Alan keeps constantly attacking Sano at this point, which leads to Sano quitting the staff and everything. He says, Alan, Tane, João Beto, they keep saying things about me and Brazilians in public chat. They couldn't prove anything about Wesker. They had Beto pardon, and yet they act like judges and know-it-all. He replied in a private chat, and it got removed. He got removed. He brings up somebody cheating. He gets tired of this filthy and disgusting community. It stresses him out. He says, thanks for your support and trust, but I've quit both servers. I ask him to show me the cheating stuff. I tell him I've also banned Alan for a week for harassing you and Brazilians. Now, this is kind of where it's going to get funny in a way. So a few days prior to this, we had an Uncharted 2 player who's from Brazil start attacking me because we banned him for glitching in the game. He ban evaded and got his brother banned when he started using his account. He then attacked me in the Reloaded Discord. You can see him say stuff against LGBTQ players. He insults me specifically. You can see the messages blocking out the homophobic slur where he made alts and continuously pinged me saying these things and started attacking staff that were all gay and telling us to be men. It's just kind of funny. You can see him doing more alt accounts to say homophobic stuff. So this happens on the 13th of that month, and I have a Brazilian insulting at me for banning him for cheating. Cut to Alan posting this when Jose asked if Brazil should participate in the World Cup, which Jose was hosting. He posted this publicly, Alan. He says, in my opinion, I'd eliminate Brazil. I think it's a perfect punishment after what they did, lying, twisting the truth about a certain person, and then, of course, playing the victim. These kinds of people should be excluded for their actions, not for their nationality, since they say we're racist. It'd be wonderful to have a clean World Cup with possible teams, so you decide either use this World Cup to punish the players involved, Brazil, or use it to start from scratch, something like maybe a clean state. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh, but I've dealt with so many difficult people that I've run out of patience. That's why I'm leaving it in your hands. Sano got really upset with this. And Sano isn't even wrong here and has every right to say this when Alan posted this publicly as a staff member of the tournament. You 100% knew what you were doing and that it would raise drama and you would make him mad. And this is the one time I will post chats from Thug's server for what Alan said because he doubles down and isn't even sorry. He says, I'm just giving my opinion, bro. I'm saying it respectfully. I didn't do anything wrong. If I have to give my tough and honest opinions, I will. That's why I also said maybe I'm being too harsh. I'll leave it in your hands. I could ban easily Sanosuke right now, but I'm not going to. I actually go here and defend Brazilians here in Brazil, saying, how is this not retaliation? It's very ironic because I was just insulted by a Brazilian and now I'm going to bat for them. You have one anonymous staff member in that chat saying there's a lot of cool people who are players in this community like Ice Cold Boxing who'd love to compete again in the tournaments and stuff, but refuses because you guys behave like this. He doesn't want the drama. He doesn't want to be attacked and targeted by emotionally immature people. Maybe we can have higher standards because people shouldn't have to be subject to bullshit like this if they want to compete. And this is such an important thing. Why do we have people acting like this in a small competitive community? We're all here to have fun, compete a little, have maybe some little banter and get into competitive spirit, but not completely attack and eviscerate people that they don't even want to be a part of this community. It drives people away. It really does. Do you guys want a really healthy and good, happy, non-cheating, hacking, non-toxic community that thrives and hopefully we can get more players and maybe even get some casuals into the competitive scene? Or do you want people to see how people act and hack and cheat in this community and drive them away? I point out here, and I try to be diplomatic, that this looks like retaliation, and you have a staff member suggesting this this in one of the staff chats, you can't throw your biases into tournaments. Whether or not Wesker Engager was toxic, we don't have evidence for that, but we do have some from Beto. But you can't go bully and ostracize players out of the World Cup or prohibit them from playing because what? You're mad they reported a toxic piece of shit when he posted those. I have no idea if he changed. It reeks of retribution for them reporting. And maybe Wesker did have his own agenda, but it doesn't change the fact Beto acted on how he did without remorse and acted like a vile person. But if we start banning players from the comp scene and not permitting them to play because they reported stuff, it's ridiculous. I told him this behavior is unacceptable and I've given you a week ban. Think of it like this. You want to punish every single Brazilian player because of two people who are from Brazil. Holy shit. Imagine if I did this, banning an entire country from Loaded because I was mad at two people. And to say it publicly. I know people like to shit on how awful I am, that I'm a horrible mega evil Hitler Thailand, but you want to punish an entire nation for the stuff somebody did in the server. I mean, write that down. Next time one of the players from that country upsets me so we can ban the entire country. I won't get into the whole chat because this video is already long. I did call Alan a piece of shit here and said he's a shit person just based on how he was acting. Remember, he leaked my staff chats at this point. Then you use these staff chats to bully people and try to get an entire nation out of the tournament. And this was me going too far. I do owe Alan an apology for this. I really should have handled it better. Me and him were just not really seeing eye to eye on this. And our last conversation was actually very pleasant prior to this, the one that I showed. So I told him to look in the mirror and grow up, to do something positive for the community. And I want to reiterate here, he is doing a lot of good for the community, despite what happened here. And I'm hoping with the rebuilding and restructuring, we can fix a lot of these issues, and going forward, we can fix some of the problems within the Latin American community and hopefully have different regions see eye to eye better. But I do want to apologize for my behavior here for Alan if he is watching this video. I do want to say that he did cause a massive amount of drama here, Alan, targeting certain people because he didn't like the outcome. When I told him we can't ban somebody without proof, he goes, "No proof for you, I know what I see." You saw someone saying, at least this is what he said in the staff chat, someone said suck my dick and provoking someone, and the other person responded with vile, racist, and homophobic remarks. How do we know? I know people said they confirmed and saw it, but I asked you in chat staff, did he say anything racist or homophobic? At the time, you couldn't confirm that. I'm not saying he didn't provoke or instigate, but when I asked for proof, the message was deleted, and it's very hard to ban somebody for he said, she said situation. As the argument continues, I have threatened to release more information from staff chats. Like I said, I don't blame Alan for this. I probably should have handled it better. It takes two to tango. I'm just as at fault here for the way this situation went. And even Alan acknowledges both sides are in the wrong. I understand each side wanting to stick up for themselves, but fighting like this will never end positively or fix any issues. And to be fair, Alan's messages here insulting me and going against me, especially the last one, I think that's more than fair. We were both problematic here, both wrong here, and hopefully this is behind us, or it becomes behind us and we can move on and do good for the competitive community. So the thing that upsets me about this conversation is he did threaten to leak more information, and from what I understand, he did it prior to me lashing out, prior to me coming into this conversation and calling him a piece of shit. He apparently did leak more stuff, and I'll get into this. And I do have to give Thugs props here, major props, because he is a very well-liked and smart and reputable person in this community. He is an amazing person for everything he does. And he even tells me, you came in and you started calling him a piece of shit. That I'll read what he wrote because it is nice to read. Vamp, you attacked Alan calling him a piece of shit and started a fight. Alan was not creating drama. He asked a World Cup leader his opinion on Brazil's inclusion. When he said he opposed because of them behaving inappropriately and attacked other community members, he also said he was willing to let it be done and start a clean slate. I pulled Alan away and told him it was too far, careless to ask for a Brazil ban. If he's uncomfortable with Sano and West specifically, then okay, but even that is better said in private. And ultimately, they should respect the decision of the event host, Jose, which they did. You're overworked and stressed, and a lot of people treat you unfairly. I see that. Totally understandable. Fuck these people for that. But when someone like Alan, a total puppy dog of a person, is losing his shit, it begs the question why. This goes back to Beto's recently, but a history of questionable bans that, while usually corrected for, is still discourages his people. If I'm picked up off the street, interrogated by authorities, and locked up for a few days or weeks, then let go, it's not the same as not just having been swooped up, and that's not made by release. It's right to correct a mistake, and people will be grateful for the correction. But when that happens and their friends get swooped up and released later on and over again, it still creates a gross feeling for everyone. I'm not denying any of the bullshit you're going through, but for your own well-being in the community, a real update to the process and procedure with these things needs to happen because it's not sustainable for anyone. I'm not saying this to blame you. I'm begging you to reflect and relax. I don't mean this facetiously, but to meditate on things. It is never recommended to make a final decision in a heightened emotional state. Meditate and de-escalate and make the call when emotions settle. An unwarranted or excessive ban is difficult to remedy without a sincere apology, acknowledgement, and procedure procedural change. I don't wonder why you're done with this shit. I only wonder why you make a final call when you know you're upset and tired. Honest to God, if we want to bring back dozens, if not hundreds of people back and win some of the community back, a genuine apology is the way to go. What you and Reloaded provided is fucking amazing, but it's not the carte blanche to let professionals slip away. You have to understand, though, the reason I was very upset, I just had staff leak stuff after the millionth time of reiterating to staff, please stop leaving staff chat. And I had him attacking another staff member who ends up quitting their position and everything because of it. But Thugs is right. I should have handled it better, and going forward, that is the hope. And this is where we get into the talk, this was a couple months ago, of redoing the moderation system and trying to listen to competitive players and try to avoid the backstabbing and the validity within the competitive scene. And this is what me, Thugs, Random, and others have been working on to try to make this procedure a lot better. I'll get on that in another video. But it comes to light where I called him, a piece of shit. And prior to Thugs writing me that Alan apparently went and told a banned player who was reporting his ult. As in, this is now him, apparently. It may not have been Alan, but from what the conversation said, it was Alan. But once again, who knows? You get this message from Acios saying somebody is reporting that Acios is telling us about Sonos All. Acios thought it was a different person. He says it may have been Jose King Styler, the one who's hosting the tournament. I asked him to ask Sonel it was. He said it was from Alan and then deleted it. Alan then said it wasn't Alan, who said it was the person who leaked. Sonel, I guess, from what I understand, and I could be wrong about this, confirmed it was Alan, then deleted it, so he likely wouldn't rat out the person who told him. Except I've now had a staff channel been leaked twice and someone innocent almost got in trouble. It goes further than that, though. Remember that previous conversation and last message from Antonio? I believe, and I could be wrong, that it was likely Alan who went and said the thing about me talking about Antonio in private or staff chats. It could have been somebody else. Eventually, Thugs is able to talk to me and Alan to fix things, and he gets unbanned so he can play again. And forward, he talks to him about not repeating the things he did and leaking chats from the staff. This is kind of an unscripted. I've wrote a script for this video, but I don't know how Alan or Antonio will take this video. I think for them, they are, once again, two passionate players who really care a lot about the game and want to prevent hackers and cheaters from taking it. They do a lot for the community, and even with the disagreements that happen and the issues that I've come to light here, I don't think either of them are bad people, and I'd love to hopefully bring them on board in some capacity to help with changes or even the competitive scene rebuild. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I think they would be invaluable to have, and hopefully for any past issues between us, it moves forward. Alan has been unbanned and so has Antonio, and hopefully they both steer clear of drama. I am very happy to have them back in the community. I think they will do good. I'm even open to people like Raptor making amends. I just want to highlight that I hope the same actions won't be repeated because I don't want to have to go through these again. It's a lot of stress on me. It's a lot of bullshit I have to deal with in this community. And I get where Alan and Antonio are coming from. I really do. I get why they lashed out. I understand why they viewed it as an injustice, and it's not fair how they're treated or how the events went down, whether it's from the community or myself. I still even talked to Alan afterwards to help me get a response for who was leaking stuff in one of our recent chats, and it ended up being Epic. And Alan actually responded to me. He could have ignored me, and he chose to reply. Even with me calling him a piece of shit, he still defended Jose, said he loved the games and the tournaments, and he doubt he interacted with people. And I even point out somebody's fucked him over, and I'm trying to find out who. This is why I came to Alan Tane. The only person I can fathom as having any clue is either Antonio or himself. And he says maybe it was Jose. Antonio's angry. We don't talk much, but last time he hinted at that, it makes more sense than Jose leaking information. But Antonio wasn't a part of the chat, so it couldn't have been Antonio because I had removed him at this point. So I do give a lot of props and praise for Alan. When I came to him to ask him for help to clear someone's name, he didn't just ignore me because we had an argument or fought. Deep down, I know he's at least a good dude who wants to see the best for the community and will speak up to help, even if we've had a fight or a disagreement. I don't even think Antonio's that bad of a guy. I think a lot of people in this community are toxic, and it gets to him and others, and they just want to have fun and play and enjoy the competitive spirit of the game, and then they have to deal with an endless amount of bullshit in the competitive drama. So these 3 videos have me talking and explaining a lot. I'm not some innocent person in a lot of these conflicts, but I'm not the demon people make me out to be, I hope. I do make a lot of mistakes. I have made them and will likely to continue to keep making them. The hope with these videos is you can kind of get perspective from my side of things to understand why I'm getting a bit frustrated or upset, or I come off a certain way. I have been looking at restructuring and rebuilding the competitive scene and redoing moderation and bringing new people on board to help out. There's a lot in these videos, and the purpose isn't to be a giant hostile person to the people involved. The point is to outline a lot of the issues that has happened that I've had to deal with before somebody goes, fuck Vampyre and fuck the Reloaded project. It's not that simple. I did end up getting a response back from Antonio when I asked him. By that point, I did find out who it was. He asked me if he could be unbanned. Sky messaged me. He said many of his old friends come back and he'd like to play again. I tell him I actually would be okay with unbanning him, and he should be at the end of this month. This was in June. He is unbanned. I tell him I have something quite big going on and that I'm working on it and it should be done by the end of July. I make sure he can be reinvited to the server because on mobile you sometimes have to restart. I tell him I will unban soon, that the unbans will coincide with another project. This project to just give me time. A lot will happen soon. That a lot should improve going forward for the comp scene in theory. He says that'd be great. If you need help on balance, let me know. I tell him there's no balance team after Alan, supposedly. It could have not been Alan. Like I said, I don't have concrete that. It was said by Sunel it was Alan and then it changed. But Alan did leak other information from Sano and Epic leak stuff. We disbanded it. He says he doesn't have to do anything. I say, no, wait till my thing's done and coincide with it and we'll do unbans and such. I'd be very open to working with both of them in some capacity. Like I said, I know they're both good guys. I don't know how these videos will be perceived by them or others in the community. I hope people listen, they get insight to things, they see that I'm trying to do things as best as I can for the community, and it has been a struggle with a lot of the issues and handling it.